Yes, I will.
Senator Woo.
Let me start by thanking you and the committee and congratulating you for this important work and for reminding us that one of the oldest forms of prejudice based on race and religion continues to persist in this country. The harms of anti-Semitism and the fears of our Jewish brothers and sisters are real, and we must do everything we can to prevent discrimination, prejudice, hostility, or violence against Jews as Jews. I've cited a definition of anti-Semitism based on what's called the Jerusalem Declaration because it's very precise in what anti-Semitism is. But there is confusion, I think, in this country as to what constitutes anti-Semitism. And I'd like you to tell us what the committee learned about whether or not certain types of acts constitute forms of anti-Semitism. For example, is it anti-Semitic to criticize Israel for acts of genocide, apartheid, war crimes, crimes against humanity in its prosecution of war against Palestinians in Gaza and in the actions on the West Bank?
Senator Senior.
Thank you for the question, Senator. I think your question really illustrates some of the challenges that we had in our committee deliberations. What I will say in response is that we heard several definitions of anti-Semitism in our committee. We realized that these definitions differ and was the cause of some division. And because our work was really focused on being able to identify issues of anti-Semitism in Canada, we really refrained from choosing what definition to go by. Instead, we decided to focus on the core issue of addressing what we heard from countless witnesses in terms of their experiences of anti-Semitism in Canada, whether it be in their work, in their communities, in their synagogues, at academic institutions, etc.
Senator Woo.
Thank you for the answer. I'm not really interested in a definition, but I'm interested in knowing if it's anti-Semitic for me to quote the UN and dozens of human rights organizations which say that Israel is committing genocide, Israel is an apartheid state, is committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. This is an important question. I want to get some insight from you and the committee because there are Canadians who are saying these things in good faith and in an attempt to try and stop the horror in Gaza and in the West Bank. Are they being anti-Semitic?
Thank you for your question. You're really asking me about the work of the committee, and I would want to respond to say that that is not the work that the committee focused on. It is not for me to determine whether you're being anti-Semitic, Senator. It really is based on, the work was really based on looking at the experiences of anti-Semitism. So that is not a question that we examined in our work. Thank you.
Senator Woo.
You know, the public listening to this debate on a question as straightforward as mine, asking if accusations, documented accusations, supported accusations of Israel's war crimes and genocide and apartheid in Gaza and Palestine, that this chamber cannot say very clearly that this is not anti-Semitic. Can you imagine the chill that it puts on those who want to advocate for Palestinians? It appears that we are saying in this chamber, we don't know. We don't know whether we can say that there's a genocide taking place because it would seem that this committee was unwilling to deal with the issue and is now leaving us with the ambiguity that those kinds of statements may well be anti-Semitic. So I'm going to try one more time to see if you can give us any guidance, because there are individuals, Canadians in universities, students, faculty, teachers, people working in unions, doctors, lawyers, who have been persecuted, who have lost their jobs, who have been reprimanded because they have made claims about Israel that were then said to be anti-Semitic and held up as anti-Semitic. What can we tell these people? That they are anti-Semites?
Senator Senior.
Senator Woo, I don't have a different response for you. I think I've answered the question as best as I could in context of the report that the committee did. Thank you.
Well, let me take a slightly different tack then. Do you feel that a vague definition of anti-Semitism, such as the one that the committee put a lot of emphasis on, the so-called IHRA definition, one which is very elastic, and that can be used to weaponize accusations of anti-Semitism against people who are critical of Israel, do you worry that these kinds of vague definitions may do more harm to the fight against anti-Semitism than benefit?
Senator Senior.
And this is the last question I will take on this matter, Madam Speaker. As I explained in my response earlier, we did not take a position on any definition, including the ERA definition or any other. We heard several definitions. We noted them in the report very clearly, and we thought that focusing on a definition over others would actually distract from the experiences of Jewish Canadians. So that is a direction that we took in our report. Thank you.